Hi everyone, just give me a second to toggle on live streaming. Welcome to our webinar. This is a very special webinar that we are bringing up for you guys. It's based on our MCP server, and uh, thanks to Pedro for bringing it to life. He has been the one of the main folks that have been involved in generating our MCP server. So uh, Pedro is a software engineer here at SingleStore, and he has extensive experience when it comes to the MCP part of the in the tech world and any forms of implementation. So he's your guy if you have any questions that are related to like any use cases that you have regarding MCP and all of that stuff. So Pedro, you would like to start sharing your screen, I guess, while I toggle on live streaming services.
Of
So
course. Wait, and
awesome. It's already live streaming. Seems like we're already live. Cool. So yeah, today's webinar is called Building Context-Aware Applications with SingleStore and MCP. And if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your Zoom console, and communicate that with us. Towards the end of the session, we will be having a dedicated Zoom Q&A session. And obviously, Pedro will try to answer all your questions live. So even if it's like a small question, please feel free to ask away. We are live and we are going to, try our best to cater to your question. And if there's any feedback or any questions related to the session, you can always reach out to either of us on LinkedIn. Our DMs are always open. And after this webinar, you'll also get an email with the resources. And I will be utilizing the chat button that you might be seeing, which is on the left side of your Zoom console. To communicate any resources, we have a GitHub repository, which is generally the general MCP server code that is there. So it's not very related to the webinar, but it's definitely a good starter. So yeah, also we are giving away $600 worth of free credits if you sign up using a email address, and it's free. And I think Pedro can obviously talk about it. It's really simple. And if any of you guys want to have a live interactive session, which is basically hands-on, we would highly recommend you to do it so that you make the best out of your time. So stay tuned, and I just keep an eye out for the chat button. I'll give it away to Pedro. Thanks for joining and bringing this webinar to life, Pedro. Okay.
yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Yukthi. Everyone can hear me fine, right?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me in this webinar about MCP. As Yukthi already mentioned, I'm a software engineer here at SingleStore, and I've been the main developer on our MCP server. And I've been following the model context protocols almost since the release on November last year. I've been to multiple conferences, both um, as an attendee and also a speaker at MCP conferences, of course. And at the end, I'll show you where I'll be next if you guys want to catch up with me. So moving to the agenda, I'll do a very brief pitch about SingleStore to get you for those of you that that still don't know what SingleStore is and what we do. I'll do a brief overview. Then I'll go straight to what Model Context Protocol is, or MCP for short, and some basic concepts that we also cover on our MCP server. Then, if we have time, I would love to show you how you can set up and use our MCP server and what you can do with it. And we'll talk to you a bit about the future work that we're planning on our MCP server and the Q&A session at the end, of course. So, who's SingleStore? So we started on 2011 as a MySQL fork and to solve a scalability issue for MySQL database. Um, so back in the days, we were called MemSQL, for those of you who know us as MemSQL, and we were mainly at analytical or an in-memory database or analytical focused database until 2020 when we rebranded to SingleStore because we started to be an all-around database. So now we support both transactional, analytical data, and also search data such as vectors, which position us as a very well solution to keeping your AI and agentic data. So moving on to what is MCP. So it was a way to standardize how you can call or interact, or your LLMs can interact with external services, whether this is external APIs, data sources, files, whatever it is. Agents used to use what it's called tools, which are basically functions that allow LLMs to be more than just chatbots and actually perform actions from your name. But different models at different ways of implementing these tools, different like tools like LangChain and other packages have different ways of you to design this type of functions. So MCP this was released in November last year by Anthropic to function as a standard way to do this. It's basically the communication protocol between the LLM and the external source. They brand themselves as the USB-C port for AI applications. So one solution for every LLM and every external services to communicate with. Later on, they also introduced resources and prompts and other concepts. I'll be focusing more on tools, resources, and prompts, and uh, later on I'll let you know what each one of them is and the main differences between them. But as you can see by this number, more than 6,000 MCP servers are already registered, and this number was taken from today from Pulse MCP, which is an MCP registry. And it's already supported by many models like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, and many other models. So its adoption, although it doesn't have a year old, it's massive. So moving to the MCP concepts. Tools, I already explained what they are. They are pieces of code that allow your LLM to interact uh, with the external services. This is very important. They are model driven, which means that it's the LLM that chooses which tool to pick or to use based on your prompts. And they tend to give the more importance to the tool name and the doc string. So basically the tool description. This is how the LLM will choose which will know what the tool does and will pick the tool based on these two factors. For example, if I have either an MCP server or an agent that has a tool called Weather API, this function will, for example, return the forecast for a given city that the LLM will discover on your prompt. So you'll say something like, "What's the weather in San Francisco today?" And the LLM will figure it out that you want to know the weather in a city. The city is San Francisco based on your prompt, and we'll call the function with San Francisco in it. Resources, on the other hand, are also functions, but are user-driven, which means that us, users, will choose when to call them or when to use them. They're basically any binary, any byte stream that you can give to the LLM as context. So basically to the LLM context window. And I say byte stream because they can be literally anything that can be processed by the LLM. So we're talking about files, we're talking about database records, we're talking about um, anything that can be provided as a file to the LLM. They're identified by a URI, just like, for example, a web page or a document, on the drive or on your file system. Um, with the add-on that it can be like dynamic. So you can either have a resource that the URL is static, so it can be identified by a docs/readme, for example, or you can have what is called a template, which will replace the URI part with variables. And you can, for example, to get a database record, you will have DB two points or column, slash slash, and then you'll have the database name slash table name, and you'll get that table name from that database, for example. And lastly, you have prompts, which are a bit different. The concept is a bit different from regular prompts. So prompt is generally speaking on the AI space, it's the string that you give, it's the input for your LLM. But MCP prompts are basically templates for this type of input. So this is something that the MCP server creator will define that this prompt or this input is useful for the LLM. This can be, for example, onboard me on this. On a GitHub MCP, for example, you could have create a PR, but instead of you always typing create a new PR with this name and that name, you can just call their prompts if they defined one. And it's basically a macro, if you're familiar with languages like C, that will be replaced by the actual string of the command. So they're very useful to guide your users on how you want them to interact with the LLM. And before we move to the demo, I also want, for those of you who don't know, that MCPs can be either local or remote. If so, the main difference is if the MCP is local, it's running on the same machine as the LLM or the application in this case. So this will this will be on the same. This will run on the same host. A host can be your Cloud Desktop, Cursor, VS Code, or any other MCP client or host. While the remote MCP server, you'll basically have to, on the configuration, so when you're trying to connect to the server, instead of you giving a package to run locally, you'll provide a URL for you to connect to the stream. It's very similar to when you're calling an API, a REST API, and you have a URL to connect to your API and get the response that you want. In this case, you'll provide the URL for the MCP service. Very, very similar. Oh, and yeah, I almost forgot. Yeah, before actually showing you the SingleStore MCP server, how you can configure it and what you can do with it, I'll sure have to introduce it, of course. So our MCP server allows your LLM to basically interact with SingleStore services. What I mean by services is not just your database, is to interact with your compute power. So we're talking about workspaces, we're talking about starter workspaces if you're on free tier. I'm talking about Jupyter notebooks and schedule jobs. You can currently it's only available on locally, and we're working on a remote version, and you can sign in both as using an API key or serverless. So you can log in as you would log in on our portal with your credentials, a single store account, basically. It has tools to, as I said, interact with your workspaces and starter workspaces, execute SQL on your database. You can create notebooks and files. So it also has access to not just to your SQL files, but also to your notebooks to create jobs. And you can also retrieve information about yourself, so the user, the organization you're in, and the region that you're on, or you want, or the regions available for you. We have a resource, and I'll be explaining a bit more later, which is a guide for your LLM and Markdown file that describes our integration with Drizzle. So for you guys who don't know, we have a connector with Drizzle ORM, an ORM written in TypeScript. And this is like a step-by-step description and also guide for the LLM to build an application from scratch, to navigate your own code base and use the driver. It basically a template that helps to provide context to the LLM when you're working with Drizzle and SingleStore. And also we have a prompt which you can call in many many MCP clients with /help. I'll be using the VS Code insiders, but will also work on VS Code. And you can use it on Cursor and Claude Desktop as well as and many other MCP clients that we also have instructions on how to configure it on our README, on a repo README that Yukthi will share with you at the end of the webinar. So now I wanted to have a little demo here on how you can configure and what you can do with our MCP server. So if you have also your code editor with you and you would like to follow along, feel free to do. If you haven't, this won't be a much hands-on webinar or a demo, because this is basically me showing you the capabilities. There's not going to be any code involved, but hopefully with this demo you'll be able to unlock the potential of actually bringing the LLM with you to code with you and to interact with SingleStore services. So you have to have UV installed. For those of you who don't know, UV is a package manager for Python, very similar to pip, but I would say an upgrade. For me, it's my personal opinion. It's an upgrade from pip. You can compare it as an npm for Python. And I'll be using, since it's local, I'll bring the package, and we have a command that allows you guys to automatically configure on the client that you're using. So, for example, I'm using VS Code Insiders, so I'll be running UVX SingleStore MCP Server, and the command to configure it's init. If you have another client, like if you're working with VS Codes, if you're working with Claude Desktop, if you're working with Cursor, you just have to check our README, and you can find the correct string to configure it. So I'll click enter, and as you can see, it automatically configured the mcp.json that I have on Code Insiders, and it's now ready to be spinned up. So it discovered that it has 18 tools, it has 3 prompts, and 1 resource. And if I click start, the expected behavior is for you to being forwards to log in with your SingleStore account. I'm already logged in, so this is the page that I went straight to the dedication success page, but this is the expected page that you will see after you input your credentials, your SingleStore account credentials. So now that we're logged in, we can start using the MCP server. So the first thing that I'm going to do is using the help prompt that I've said before. And as you can see, it already has autocomplete. Once I click on this, you'll see why I compare this to a macro, the prompts with macros. So this will be replaced, this mcp.singlestore blah, 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 will be replaced by the actual prompt to basically help the user use our MCP. So as you can see, this is the prompt that I'm going to give. This is basically to list the tools, resources, and prompts. This is still in beta. For some reason, the LLM only lists the tools, the resources. It goes and tries to find not the MCP resources, but some useful resources to help you with the MCP. We're still trying to work on it, and some example of prompts. So once again, in my opinion, MCP prompts and MCP resources are still undervalued part of the MCP. So the LLM knows well what tools are. Resources and prompts get a bit behind, but hopefully they will get the relevance that they deserve. So with this, let me just ask it, list my workspaces. And it's expected that the first one will fail because we don't have an organization. So this the flow that we went with, it's very similar to what you'll have on your when you get into your into portal, so into your SingleStore account. So when you get in, you have an organization selected, right? And you will only perform operations on one organization. So we decided to follow with that. And if you read this, it's a request for an input. This is what it's called elicitation. This is available on VS Code and other MCP clients. Be aware that if you're a Claude desktop user, this feature is still not available. So you'll probably have to it will list the organizations, but you will have to basically copy and paste it as free text. And the main difference here is that I'll copy my organization ID. Let me just keep this out of the way. And as you can see, it's expecting an input. It's not free text. I'll just put it, and it selected my organization. So now I'm logged in as on my own organization, and I can start perform some requests on it. So it says to me that you currently have no starter workspaces in your organization, nor workspaces at all. So I'll say, let's create a new starter workspace named. Actually, let it choose the name and say and populate it with. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, so let's populate it with some Star Wars info. Uh, let's see what it can actually come up with. So it requests for me to provide a provider and a region. It also lists the providers and regions that are available for me as a shared tier, as a free tier user. So I'll respond for the provider. I'll say AWS, and for the region, I'll say let's host it on US East 1. So it'll create the starter workspace. Star Wars workspace has been successfully created. Yeah, let me know how you would like to populate it with Star Wars information. So this is on the LLM, so it requests me more information about the population part. Let's create 3 tables, one with the characters, the another with planets, and final one with ship. So let's see what it has to offer. So the expected behavior is exactly to run some SQL, so with create tables, and also to insert some demo data that is going to generate. So and I have this automatically run, so auto approve the tools because I unlocked this feature. By default, you will have you'll have to manually approve that you want to run this tool for security reasons. So if you inspect the first run SQL, you can see that it creates a table called character, and it was here you can see the input data and the output data. It was successful. So, okay, moving on, we have the 3. Let's inspect. So let's inspect, for example, the characters one. Let's inspect and let's see what it brings. Okay, as you can see, it basically describes. Okay. And show me the data inside it. It's probably select, exactly. Okay, then let's populate it with some demo data. So basically what I'm doing is I'm interacting straight with my database using only an LLM. So I didn't need to actually, as you can see, didn't need to go to portal or connect with MySQL or HTTP protocol. I'm just using the LLM to interact with my database. And if I run this again, you'll see that it has exactly, now it has data and the data that it inputted. So finally, I also wanted to show you guys more than just interacting with your database and spinning up a starter workspace for you to start using SingleStore. We also provide a good space to host and work with Jupyter notebooks in Python. And our MCP server is prepared for that as well. So we support Jupyter notebooks. So let's perform some cool analytics using Jupyter notebook on this data. So let's see what it does. So this is the LLM will decide, which basically what it means, what cool means in this case. Let's see what he actually has to offer us. So you can see that it's created a Star Wars Analytics notebook, which actually looks pretty interesting. It imports like um, the main notebooks, the main packages, Python packages for you to actually perform some data analytics. Matplotlib, Seaborn for heat maps and other type of maps, pandas for data manipulation, of course. You have the query, and you can see that it's basically trying to connect to the database. So it wasn't smart enough to actually realize that through the MCP you can actually already do this. But it knows that the notebook will run on the platform itself. So there is where you're going to interact with the notebook. So it basically created a dummy one, and I'll say, let's upload this notebook to SingleStore. So now you want to share this notebook with your client, with your colleagues, with whomever you want to. And we have a tool for that. This can be like a back and forth process because notebooks can have multiple configurations. You can have it on a JSON format, you can have it on an XML format or others. We are compatible with JSON formats. So the LLM might have created the notebook with one format and now it has to convert it to another. But by the end of the day, we have tools to help it actually getting into our notebook formats, so you don't have to worry about that. So I might have hopefully it's not a network issue. Let me try it again. I'll cancel it. If I have to, I can actually change which LLM I'm using. Hopefully this won't get stuck. This can be problems from my Copilot instance. Hopefully not. Let me just try one more thing. Yes, let's reset this. Okay. Okay, let's upload. Okay, if it doesn't work, hopefully you could try locally and we'll move on with the demo. It's unfortunate that it stopped working right now. Let's wait just a bit more. Okay, it seems that it's not collaborating. But before I move back to the with our with the presentation and go to the Q&A, let's just log in into our a portal, into my account, and just make sure that this is actually that it actually created the data and didn't just made up and said, yeah, I connected to the database and retrieved the past conversation data. So let me create a new SQL file and connect. Yeah, I'm connected to the Star Wars database, so at least the workspace is there. Okay, and say show show tables. So we are expecting to have 4 tables, the 3 Star Wars related and the info schema. Oh, okay, yeah, we uh, okay, then no info schema for this one, but we have the characters, planets, and ships. Amazing. So now let's select all from characters. Let's run it, and there you go. You have information, and the information that it says it's going to populate it with Princess Leia, of course, Darth Vader, Yoda, Luke Skywalker, and Chewbacca. So we have the characters here. It did successfully interact with the database, and you can do like I've done very simple CRUD operations, but you can do all sorts of operations to um, so this basically lets you bring the LLM to your own day-to-day activities using SingleStore. Um, so finally, before the Q&A, I just wanted to highlight the future work, what we have on the roadmap for this. And it's basically, I've already mentioned this, it's the remote MCP server. So we're, for several reasons, we are developing our own remote MCP server for you to don't have to actually download it and start and spin up locally. You can just point to a single instance and interact it from there. Also include more single store specific docs. I know that this is a main issue because our own way of doing things, our own scheme, our own syntax, and also to get you started with a bunch of services that we have. We want to all bring this to an interactive way and to the context of the LLM, so you can easily navigate the docs or improving your queries and tuning your queries without leaving your code editor. So using the MCP server, providing more resources. So besides the documentation, we want to provide static the resources like the one we have for Drizzle. For example, database records, so you can actually bring records basically like you would do with the RAG workflow. You provide information straight from a data source, and in this case, your database is the data source. And also to interact with your Python SDK or any other SDKs that we provide. And finally, it's getting this is a discussion that it's starting to get some attention on the MCP steering committee and also on the MCP space, which are the increasing number of tools that can mess with the LLM. So an LLM performance will decline with the increase of the tool numbers that you provided. So if you have like 5 MCP servers or a one MCP server that has like 100 tools, the LLM server will have difficulty to select the correct tool because it's the inputs it's too large. So at SingleStore, we are aware of this problem, and we want to group the tools that you saw earlier in groups like management to if you want to only work only interact with your workspaces. So spin up a workspace, resume a workspace. You can just select this group manually. Another group, database, docs, notebooks, and many other tools that we want to release. And finally, I'll be present and talking at Berlin next September. I think it's next Tuesday, September 16th, at Berlin at the MCP conference 2025, and also at the MCP Dev Summit on October 2nd in London. So if you're in town or you would like to know more about MCP, you're free to send me a DM on my socials. I'll leave it here, my LinkedIn, my Twitter, or X in this case, and my GitHub. You feel free to DM me that you saying that you are in town or you would just like to know more about MCP in general, or I would gladly want to know more what you would like to see on the single store MCP. What's your current workflow? What you are using agents for, and you would like to explore the potential of the MCP. Feel free to contact both me or contact the single store team straight. Thank you.
All right. So, guys, we are officially open for Q&A. Pedro, thank you so much for this amazing presentation, and that demo was really helpful. So we have one question that's already there in the Q&A console. So if you can take a look at that, it's visible to you, right? So
Yes.
yeah, you can reiterate on that. That would be great. For while Pedro is reading the question, if you all that are attending, if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to add it in, and we will make it a point because we have a lot of time, so we can answer it live. And if like we'll take, and if the time also ends, like we can always follow up with you on email. So no matter what the question is, please feel free to add it here using the Q&A button.
Yeah, it seems that at least at the Zoom chat we still don't have any questions. Feel free to add yours here
Actually,
at the
there
Zoom
is a
chat.
question.
Oh, then I don't see it. Yeah, yeah. Then you can read it to me.
Okay,
Okay, fine.
so there's a question from Bill. Bill is actually a regular attendee at our webinar. So it's more like a comment. He says that I think you are sort of answering this, but not in an automated manner. If you had lots and lots of tools, could you have one tool in a simple case that can be asked for tools within management versus database versus docs versus notebooks, etc., rather than one very large tool list? So I hope you understand the question.
Yeah, I think so. So you're basically asking why not having just one tool that lets you discover the other tools instead of just like a big tool list. It's a very a great question. It's a viable solution. To be honest, it's a better solution that just provides a big tool list. The main issue with that versus grouping them is with discoverability of tools. So in this at prior, the LLM will not know which tools do you have and which one to would you need to call. Sure, you can have them on the doc string of that specific tool, but while as your tool set increases, you get to the maintainability costs of maintaining that doc string also increases, and there's space for you to forget to update with new tools introductions to update the doc string. So in my opinion, it's a cleaner way to group them on groups. You can see other MCP servers that already do this. I know, for example, the Superbase MCP server, it's going this way. I think the GitHub MCP server is going this way as well. I think it also allows you as the user to toggle and untoggle which ones do you want to use rather than letting the LLM to choose.
Right. So we have another question from Ronnie. They say that, hi, they would like you to show it to them that it can work with Python, etc. Could it also work with Power BI or ClickView?
Yeah, sure. It's the first part of the question. It does surely works with Python, since Python it's a very common, very famous coding language, and you can and the LLM already knows syntax, Python syntax. So this is, and we are working on a resource, as I've mentioned, for our Python SDK, um, specifically to know specifically how to work with single source. So currently you can use it, and the results will be um, that it'll probably use something like SQL Alchemy or what we have at the docs for you to interact with your database using Python. After we release the resources, the experience will be more personalized.
Sorry. Yeah, Sunny, I see your question. I'll take it up after we address Ronnie's follow-up question. So,
Mm.
Ronnie, on addition to the previous question, he has written that another question. I saw your request to an IA the code for I think there's like a little bit of a typo. So like you can you see the question
Yeah,
like
now I've discovered
awesome,
the okay.
awesome.
So request to an AI, the code for you want to do what's MCP works. I'm not sure if I actually understood the questions, Ronnie. If you
Yeah.
could repeat, um, we can move to Sunny, and hopefully Ronnie will retype the answer,
Yeah,
the
awesome.
question. Um, so Sunny says, I'm a third year uh, bachelor tech student, and I'm curious, can you explain how SingleStore and MCP handle real-time context awareness in applications, and what best practices you recommend for designing data pipelines to support this? It's a great question, Sunny, and so the MCP, it's basically an enabler for our SingleStore services. So the real-time data handling, it's actually performed by SingleStore, which is as a data a real-time database, and allows you to interact with and build applications that are actually streaming live data. So there's not any MCP magic behind this. It's actually through the single store technology from there. This can actually be applied for you to provide real-time context to to your LLM. If you have an LLM that instead of having a local in-memory context, if you connect it to a database, or if you use our MCP server, and you can actually say to the LLM, just here's your URL for your context application, and querying it every time you need more context, or save the information. You can actually prompt it to the LLM, and the LLM would know that you have a single store database, that it's a context database at the moment. So this is one way of you to improve your flows and with real-time context, using the or MCP and AI in general. Um, and to design data pipelines to support this, we have on Portal pipelines ready for you to load data from different sources. So if you ask me, we are very strong for building RAG workflows using our pipelines. You can navigate um, to our pipeline tab on Portal, and see what data sources do we have available straight to your database, and use that database as the data source for your LLM to provide to your context. This is how I would do.
So there are more questions. There is another question from Manish. So they say that how is LangChain different from MCP?
Yeah, so um, So LangChain is, if I'm not mistaken, a package that allows you to build agents. And it's true that you can build um, tools. I mean, you can only build an agent when you write tools using LangChain, and you can connect your LLM or your agent to external services using LangChain. Um, the main difference here with MCP is that the MCP is just a protocol itself. It's the way you actually communicate with your external services without actually knowing their implementation, which is not true for LangChain. For LangChain, you have to write your own codes saying that you want the function to do this and that for you to connect to this data source, they use REST or they use SOAP or they use X. They have their own protocol. You have to connect with this. So you basically have to code everything by yourself. While MCP, especially MCP servers are basically like a package that the provider, service provider provides to you with like a bunch of pre-set up tools for you to actually interact with this with their service. So in our case, we will have an execute or run SQL tool that allows you to connect to a database and run SQL. You don't have to actually write that tool. We wrote that for you. Um, so this allows you um, to quickly interact with something, or actually build your own MCP server since is standardized, and start to interact with an external service without actually writing the code. And I think Ronnie has uh, I think it's the rewrites of the previous question. So, like you showed to us, you don't have to know about transact codes. Could you request to the AI what you want to do and do it, and the AI give the code you want? Do you? Okay, if I understood correctly, you're asking if you could ask the LLM, can you write the code to perform this operation? So I'm assuming that you don't know how to write the code for the specific use case that you want to achieve, or the goal that you want to achieve. So you can actually ask the LLM for that, and that it's true. It's one of the use cases for LLMs, of course. Um, and you can also do with MCP as well. There are some MCPs that can improve the LLM reasoning or provide more context to the LLM based on the tools that you want to use. You can basically MCP in this case, it's like a booster, or it's basically put your LLM on steroids if you want, for you to actually on a like bring more pieces to the table and start to you want to interact with this service, bring their MCP server, and you can easily do it without actually writing the code for the to interact with that service, so for the tools. You want to improve the reasoning. Someone that understands better than you how LLMs reason has written an MCP server to improve with tools to improve reasoning. So, or with resources to actually provide more context for the LLM to improve their ability. So I think that that use case will still exist for LLMs and will be extremely valuable. MCP just brought an extra way of you to have all these possible tools that you would like to use in your pocket. You can actually compare this as some discs, like CDs on your bookshelf. Uh, you want to listen to pop now, okay, then you bring one of your pop singles to your disc record. Now you want to listen to some rock, then you switch, or you just pause and put the rock disc on another on another space on your disc record. So this is basically like simple packages to improve the performance of your LLM.
That was a very good explanation, actually. So we don't have any other questions. So I think if there's no other questions, we can actually conclude the session. Pedro, is there anything else that you want to mention?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me both on X or on LinkedIn as well. I left it there. And if you have more questions, or if you would like to show us any use case that you have using SingleStore, or you're using SingleStore for your agents, feel free to open an issue on our GitHub repo. It's open source. Yukthi will send you the GitHub link, and also to reach out to us through portal or any other of our channels.
Yeah, so as Pedro said, our DMs are open, and if there's any, like, we love to collaborate. So if there's any project that you're working on, we would love to see like how we can bring value, or if we can collaborate on something. If you want to actually join us as a speaker for one of our webinars, let me know. My DMs are open. So one of my main jobs here is to actually organize these webinars here at SingleStore. So like, please reach out to us, or to the team, and we have amazing sessions that are going to be coming up, so they're definitely there on our resources page, and we will be sending out like Sunny, like, you can look up Pedro. Like, there was a slide that also mentioned his LinkedIn. Actually, someone's asking for your profile link, so
Yeah, I'll
that
make
can
sure that I can leave it. I've shared it on the webinar chat as well. So feel free to send a DM there,
just,
or
yeah, you
a
can always
connection
reach
request.
out to Pedro, and like, if you have any questions, and yeah, I think we can conclude the session then. And for everyone that actually missed out a part, like a bit of session, we have it entirely recorded, and you will be seeing an email from me in your inbox within 2 to 3 days. So feel free to check out the recording. We are sending the general MCP server GitHub repository as well in the email. So stay tuned for that. And I hope to see you in our next webinars. Do check that out, and take care, everyone. Have a good day, good evening, and we'll see you soon. Okay. Take care, Pedro. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.